So did you hit any bets yesterday?
I did indeed. I did indeed. Actually, we hit some Thursday. I had Cincinnati plus 6.5. I thought that they would keep that game versus Nebraska pretty close. I love what Nebraska has right now as an offense. Defensively, they played a lot better than I thought that they would, but Cincinnati was able to keep the game competitive. You know, it was a neutral site game in
Yeah.
Kansas. So I didn't expect one team to run away with it. I thought it was going to be a relatively close game. Second game that I hit, and I called this like way back in the middle of the summer. USF plus 5.5. I got them at plus 100, just even odds. Really nice, clean bet, and they dominated Boise
Absolutely.
State.
That was a sharp read.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Byron Brown, their
Yeah.
quarterback. I mean, I thought he would have been a multi-million-dollar quarterback if he hopped into the portal, but he stays at USF. Yesterday, the only pick that we had was Auburn Baylor under 57.5. Late touchdown there from Jackson Arnold running in the fourth quarter. Tips the over, very unfortunate, but
Yeah.
extremely solid plays today. And I feel like we're right on top of these lines. I feel like I'm really plugged in this year.
Yeah, the Nebraska game was super interesting because, Cincinnati was driving late there at the end of the ball game,
Yeah,
and just an interesting play call there towards the end of the game. Like,
right.
you know,
Yeah, I
you're
can't
you're you're
go
in
ahead.
field goal range and you throw that pass there, it was picked off. What do you think there?
You know, a lot of these games, I always think back to that Alabama LSU game back in 2022. I think LSU was at home. It was in overtime, and they had to decide whether or not to go for two. And they decided to roll their dice because they believed in their team. I think that throw from Cincinnati towards the end zone there was just like a belief in the offense that they could actually get it done and go out and outright win the game.
Yeah.
It could also be that maybe their coach didn't like the defense and didn't trust them in overtime. Either way, to put the ball in the quarterback's hands and try to go win the game is basically what everyone wants if you play on the offensive side of the football. You want an opportunity to go win. They just fell short. It was not a great throw. It was a hell of a play by Hartzog with Nebraska.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, insane pick, but didn't
Yeah,
turn out well for Cincinnati.
and we saw an interesting, if you watched that Auburn Baylor game last night as well, Baylor had, they were down 2 touchdowns at the end of the game there. They were driving, they were in the red zone, 4th and 1, and they take an end zone shot on the 4th and 1.
Yeah,
And it was like, the time's starting to run down a little bit, but they just went for broke right there at the end and just kind of the game was over after that.
I think that one and Cincinnati are two different things. Cincinnati's within one score,
Yeah,
whereas Baylor, they've got to score and then get the ball back and
right.
score again. And they had their three timeouts.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I didn't understand that play call at all. But we saw all night long Baylor was taking risk after risk.
Yeah.
I think they went for it on fourth down 5 times in
I
the
think they
first half.
punted one time last night.
Yeah. I mean, props to Dave Aranda for like
Yeah.
having that much confidence, but
Going for it
my
on his
God.
own 30, just balls of steel, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, I was shocked to say the least that they were doing that. I mean, the first drive out, they go for it. I mean, it ends up panning out. They get the field goal to kind of start the or try to spark the offense for the rest of the game. But I don't know, man. I was blown away by those calls. I do like their offense as well. Like Michael Trigg is probably one of the best tight ends in the
Yeah.
country. Sawyer Robertson, I think, is either the second best or maybe third best Big 12 quarterback. And so, I mean, even Josh Cameron, who really didn't get involved that much in the offense, I think he's a really good wide receiver. The rest of that Baylor team is star studded. I think they're going to go 10-2
Yeah.
in conference. That's just that Auburn team. If they weren't in the SEC, that's a playoff team, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at a guy like Kobe Prentice on this Baylor team, the
Yeah.
Alabama transfer. I mean, that just shows you how deep that team actually is.
Yeah, yeah. He was, I think, wide receiver number 3 on that
Yeah,
team. So I mean,
exactly.
very impressive what Baylor's got going right now. They just cannot let this one become the defining factor for the rest of the season because
Yeah,
I think they have a bright future.
absolutely. And I think we would be extremely remiss this morning if we didn't dive into this Longhorns Buckeyes game. Uh,
Oh man,
yeah.
Let's get into it. I can't, you can't see it because I've got the mic on, but I've got a Texas polo
Okay.
on.
Oh, repping it today.
But it's going to be a mystery pick. I not necessarily riding with the Longhorns today.
Okay.
I like the color orange on me. That's all.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So we got this coming in kind of like a pick 'em today. The over under set at 47. Ohio State coming in at 1.5 point favorites today.
Yeah.
What do you got for this one?
So I don't necessarily love either team. I mean, and the line reflects that perfectly. It's practically a pick 'em.
Yeah.
I think the line was at 2.5 when I was looking at this earlier this week, but a ton of money comes flooding in on Texas
Oh yeah.
yesterday and shrinks the line down to 1.5. Looking at both of these offenses, I see two very inexperienced quarterbacks. Now, Arch Manning is the prince that was promised. He's the guy that's the quote unquote truth in the future of Texas. The two things that worry me is number one, Quinn Ewers was a 7th-round NFL draft pick. Arch Manning is projected as the number one overall pick this upcoming
Absolutely.
draft. Why in the world did it take so long for Arch Manning to secure this starting position? I know that he's talented. We see it in his arm, his athletic ability for someone that his size and honestly of his pedigree, the Manning name. They're not athletes, and he is. I don't know. I guess I just worry why it took him so long. But the second thing that kind of concerns me is that when he was used with Texas last year, he was more of a gimmicky quarterback.
Yeah.
It was quarterback run RPO. It was not a lot of traditional snaps in the pocket, drop backs, and read the field. So we really haven't seen that from Arch Manning so far. I'm looking forward to today to find out if Texas is actually going to transform this offense around Arch and give him an offense that plays to his strengths, or are they going to try to do what they did with Quinn Ewers and make him into a traditional pocket quarterback? I guess we'll see. A lot of the practice film shows that Arch Manning is passing the football, but the practice film that's being shown is by Texas
Yeah.
football, the account. So, I mean, they're not going to show Arch Manning throwing incompletes or inaccurate balls, interceptions. So, all you can do is go based off of the reporting. Everybody has been raving about Arch in the offseason. I think he's going to play well, but this Ohio State defense is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
They lose, I think combined between Texas and Ohio State, there were over 20-something draft picks
Wow.
last year.
Yeah.
And so both teams have got to replace a lot. But in terms of star power, Ohio State, of course, has Caleb Downs. But the guy that I really like today that's going to have to affect the game more than anything is Sonny Styles, who plays like outside linebacker, edge rusher type guy.
Okay.
He's going to have to disrupt the backfield because I think Ohio State is going to, or I'm sorry, Texas is going to try to establish the run. CJ Baxter, running back from last year, got hurt, missed either all the season or the majority of the season.
Yeah.
He's back, as well as Trey Wisner, who everybody says is one of the best quarterback or running backs in the country.
Yeah.
If they're going to have a day, it's going to be on Sonny Styles to stop the run, get a couple tackles for loss, and force Arch Manning to make those passes. So flipping the script now, talking about Ohio State. Julian Sayin, once again, kind of like Arch, is an unknown. He was a 5-star prospect originally at Alabama, transfers to Ohio State. He wins the starting job a little late in fall camp, in my opinion. So there was definitely a quarterback battle there. What I always question is, was it a good quarterback battle or was it a bad one? And when I think of bad ones, I think Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson, right?
Yeah.
That was not a good QB battle. They weren't, holding on to that decision because both of them were so good. They were holding on to it because they were like, man, both of these guys are just kind of ass. Right? And so we'll never, quote unquote, get the truth about what kind of QB battle that was. But I have to lean on the fact that Julian Sayin is a talented kid. Maybe he can perform well as a starter. I do think this is going to be like Ohio State from last year. They're missing Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, but regardless, they're going to pound the rock. They got a transfer from Pitt. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But I know they've got Max Clare, tight end from Purdue. I think he'll get some action. And of course, the wide receiver core is star studded. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Cornell Tate would be the wide receiver one on, I think, 95% of college football teams. And he's going to be wide receiver two today behind JJ Smith, or Jeremiah Smith, everybody calls him. I think this Ohio State team has a little bit more continuity and consistency offensively
Yeah.
than Texas, because they established an identity last year, and I think that they're going to stick to it. Whereas Texas versus a team like Mississippi State or Vanderbilt last year, they threw the ball a lot. And then versus Georgia, they did this weird thing where they're trying to establish the run, but they're trying to establish the run against one of the biggest, most talented defenses in the country.
Yeah.
Are they trying to make a statement? I don't know. What I do know, though, is that Texas lacked a true identity in their big games last year, and they lost all three of them. Lost to Georgia in the regular season,
Yep.
lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game, and then lost to Ohio State in the college football playoff. And so, recapping everything I just said, I think the deciding factor comes down to me, the fact that I have not seen Steve Sarkisian win one of these big games, let alone it on the road.
Yeah.
I need to see it. He lost against Washington, lost those 3 games last year. He's got probably his best team that he's had at Texas. Let's see him win that game. But for me, give me Ohio State -1.5.
Ohio State -1.5. I take a look at some of these stats here, and I just see, surprisingly, Texas was pretty balanced last year.
Yeah.
Passed the ball 48% of the time, rushed the ball 51% of the time. I'm interested to see what Sarkisian does, offensive mind that he is, with a fully healthy backfield for the first time in a year and a half.
Me
Do
too.
we come out and see a lot of these, RPOs early for Arch Manning? Do they completely reinvent themselves this year? That's going to be the interesting part. Julian Sayin, we touched on him, the transfer from Alabama.
Mhm.
Really interested to see what he does. We can take a look here. Red zone, rush heavy team, right, in the red zone.
Right.
But they did lose. They did lose that backfield, right? So it's going to be a completely new backfield, right?
Yeah, yeah. Once again, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. Their second running back is a guy from Pitt, I believe. Let me look up that Ohio State depth chart.
C.J. Donaldson, or
yeah, C.J. Donaldson. That's
yeah,
correct.
yeah. So C.J. Donaldson, who was he with last year?
I think he was. I think he was with Pitt. I could be wrong about that. Let me pull that up. I did an Ohio State Texas preview a couple weeks ago. West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Mistaken. I was thinking of that backyard brawl between the two. He was behind Jaheim White at West Virginia. Didn't get a ton of action, and so I'm surprised that he transfers to Ohio State. Maybe he thinks he's going to get more of the lion's share of the touches there, just because Ohio State is a more run-committed team than West Virginia is. But maybe he made a mistake, because Rich Rodriguez likes to run the ball. So maybe he could have stuck around at West Virginia. It could have panned out. But the guy who's going to be starting for Ohio State is James Peoples.
Yeah.
This is a guy that I don't have a lot of film on. True freshman last year. I'm very surprised that Ohio State is going to go with Peoples as the starter, because he just flat out doesn't have a ton of experience. He sat behind Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins last year. Just 49 carries, 197 yards, and a couple touchdowns. And a lot of that was in garbage time versus some of these blowout games.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see. Based off of Ohio State, they produce NFL players top and bottom, one of the best in the country. So if they're starting a sophomore, I mean, this guy must be the truth.
Yeah.
But once again, without actual in-game tape, we're kind of just speculating on that one here.
Of course. And I think the book odds, the book lines really tell that story as well. Like, James Peoples has a 55.5-yard rush line, and C.J. Donaldson is at 43.5. So
yeah,
I think the books don't really know either, right? And so I think it's a wait and see type moment. The only thing that kind of sticks out here to me, and we're looking here at looking at Texas's defense versus running backs. A season ago, it really looks like the running backs got torched through the air. There was several games where just a bunch of receptions were made by running backs against Texas. So I wonder if that could be an interesting angle today. See, and that's another thing. You don't know necessarily who's going to be that third down back, that receiving back in there. I see C.J. Donaldson had a couple games a season ago where he was in there, had 7 receptions against Texas Tech for 73 yards. I'm taking a look at the 6.5-yard receiving line for C.J. Donaldson today, and that one kind of sticks out to me a little bit.
I actually really like that going, and this kind of goes away from the Texas defense and kind of highlights the Ohio State offense and maybe the quote unquote unexpectedness of it.
Yeah.
I think what you do with a young quarterback, I mean, you
Yep.
could see this across college football, is get him easy completions.
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
not you're not asking Julian Sand to throw a 40-yard nuke over one of the best defensive backs or
Right.
one of the best defensive back units in the country, right? So I really like that prop. 6.5 yards. I think he gets a couple of catches today because, like we've both said, both of these backs I think are going to be involved in the offense in some shape, way, or form. 6.5 yards for him. That's one catch, maybe two. So I like that prop a lot. Texas kind of, like you said, struggled against not necessarily even running backs in the receiving game, but just behind the line of scrimmage plays. So screen plays, bubbles, halfback angles. It didn't necessarily make a difference. I think it just kind of was a testament of what Texas was really committed to last year, and that was the secondary, stopping receivers. They did a pretty good job of that. And so that kind of transitions me into my first thought. You mind pulling up Ryan Wingo's line right now?
Ryan Wingo, here we are, right here.
So we've got Ryan Wingo over under 55.5. Wide receiver one. It's very clear at Texas. If I had to put money on it, which I just might on this particular prop, I would take Ryan Wingo under 55 and a
Yeah.
half yards.
Yeah, and I think you look right here at this screen, and
Yeah.
it'll tell the story for you.
Yeah. Jermaine Matthews Jr. is Ohio State's CB1. He is probably going to be matched up on Wingo more than anybody else this upcoming game. And I thought he did a phenomenal job in the stuff that I've seen. And like you said, take a look at this right here. Now, of course, Isaiah Bond was with Texas last year, so Wingo kind of took a back seat to him. But that Texas receiving core to me was just never really that like star-studded. Now, Xavier Worthy was a guy at Texas a couple years ago
Yeah.
that kind of popped off, but he was also very inconsistent. The one thing that is the same as Wingo, Worthy, and Bond, they're kind of deep ball specialists. They need to get deeper on the field. They're not guys that you can throw a bubble screen to and shake off a tackle.
Yeah.
When somebody gets their hands on them, they're getting down. So I think this is a good prop to take. 55.5 yards going under with that makes me feel confident because I just don't think that Ohio State is going to allow Wingo to get open down the field.
I'm gonna add it to our bet slip here. And
All right.
on Doing Sports, you're able to add your bet slips right here. It'll track it all for you. You can leave a little note. So we said stout CB1 here for Ohio State. Ohio State, correct?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so we'll get that one in. So we've got a couple here so far. We've got C.J. Donaldson over 6.5 receiving yards. Ryan Wingo under 55.5 receiving yards. Anything else you want to touch on in this game, or are you ready to move on to the next?
So as we could see live right now, that over underline at the top just went from 47.5 to 46.5.
Yep.
And that is extremely alarming to me because the line at the beginning of the week was at 50.5.
Yep.
So we're talking about a 4-point drop here.
That line's
Either
moving.
either the public loves the under, which is pretty doubtful. Everybody knows the public loves points,
Public
or
loves overs.
some really quiet, wealthy sharps are slamming this underline.
Yep.
At the beginning of the week, I loved under 50.5. Under 46.5 scares me. So
Yep.
I was going to mention something about it, but I think, in my opinion, I'm going to stay away from this line and we can head on to the next.
And this is one of the great things about Doink Sports website as well. These lines will update live. So you're
Yeah,
at
I'm loving to watch it. It's like a ticker,
yeah,
stock market ticker.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's great because you're kinda going through this research, and lines are moving all the time, guys. And what Doink Sports will do, you see these different books here. Doink Sports will actively shop all the lines that are available out there, and it's gonna spit out the best one to you, so that you're getting that long-term profitability. Because you wanna shop your lines, guys. You don't wanna just take, Ohio State money line at 130 somewhere when you can get it at -110 at, like, Caesars or Bet Rivers or whatever.
Right.
Um, so I think we're gonna move on to Alabama and Florida State here, and
Okay.
and I tell you what, this could be fireworks today.
I'm thinking so. Now, there was one thing that really concerned me in terms of the main line and the over under, and I'm actually going to do a check just real quick.
Yeah,
Let me take a look. I've been looking at it over and over and over again. That Tallahassee weather for today.
okay.
That's my major concern. We've seen predictions of rain as it sits right now. There is a 25% chance.
Okay.
Not that bad, but it's going to be cloudy all day long. So, I mean, basically, when kickoff happens at 2:30 to 6 o'clock, there is going to be a constant wonder, is it going to start raining? And so I that's my like number one like get away from it when in terms of over under. If it's going to rain, I don't know. It could be a slop fest like we saw last week, Kansas State versus Iowa State. Over under was, I believe, 50 and a half, and the final score ended up being 24 to
Yeah,
21, I believe. And remember, Iowa State is on the 1 inch line
yeah,
to send the game over. That got the running back for Iowa State slips
yep,
on the wet grass and
absolutely.
falls just short. And that every single time I think of a rainy game, I'm thinking fumbles,
Yep,
slipping, just sloppy play all around. This could end up being a barn burner.
yeah,
It could end up being a shootout. Don't get me wrong. But my original play was Alabama, Florida State under 50 and a half. We're watching that line move down right now under 48 and a half. 48 and a half is a little more worrisome, but in my opinion, I think this Florida State offense is not, they might not be bad later in the season. I think they're going to be very bad today. I
yeah,
think Alabama's defense is extremely talented, and Florida State has way too many moving pieces
yeah,
for me to feel confident that they can put points up. And quarterback Tommy Castellanos, coming from Boston College, was not a great passer of the football.
not at all.
Now, one thing that has plagued Alabama throughout the Saban era and now into the DeBoer era is dual threat quarterbacks.
Yep,
However, I have yet to see Tommy Castellanos perform as a quote unquote dual threat efficiently
yeah.
versus a top tier caliber defense.
And we can actually dive into that a little bit deeper as well. We can kind of look at these statistics
Perfect. Yeah, this is
here as well.
great.
And we can
Yeah,
let's
I mean,
take a
like
look.
Castellanos's lines are like you see there at the end, rush yards going over 46, 156, 73. None of those defenses were,
Right.
quote unquote elite. Louisville, now that Virginia Tech one, that's all right. 58 yards. I thought Virginia Tech had a pretty good defense last year, but the number one that I'm looking at is that game at Missouri.
Yeah, the SEC
13
team in there.
attempts, 16 yards.
Yeah.
Now I want to ask you a clarifying question, Reeves. Is rush yard props on? I know a couple of sports books, but I don't know for all sports books. Do they factor in sack yards?
They do, they do. And
Okay.
actually, so we had a live stream yesterday, and we were diving into Jackson Arnold, and we just saw that this guy can go crazy with his legs.
Yes.
So we actually took Jackson Arnold alt rush yards at 80 yards last night, plus
Oh,
930 on DraftKings, and we hit that.
wow.
And we hit that at plus 930. So there was a point in that game where he actually cashed in the first half, but he had a strip sack and he lost 14 rush yards. So they do factor it in.
That's right. Okay, perfect. That makes me a little bit more confident. I see that the line down there is, wait, let me, 25 and a half. Is that right?
25 and a half. Yeah.
Ooh, I mean, that's a really low total right there. If we're looking at 25 and a half, he hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and he missed 1, 2, 3, 4,
Yeah,
5 times.
yeah.
Versus Alabama last year, can we get some defensive statistics on that?
Yeah, here you go. Let's scroll.
QB1, Alabama. Let's look at some dual threat games. Diego
Okay.
Pavia,
Yep.
dual threat, over. Lenore Sellers, however, also a dual threat, under. Nico, dual threat, over. Drew Pine, he's not even a single threat. So
Jackson
but
Arnold absolutely torched them last year as
yeah.
well.
And then Peyton Thorne also torched him. And Peyton Thorne's not somebody that I would qualify as a quote unquote dual threat.
Peyton
Uh,
Thorne threw for 300 yards against Alabama last year.
Yeah, that Alabama defense in the second half specifically, they just went into park the bus mode,
Yeah,
and they just let Auburn kind of throw the pigskin around just for funsies.
yeah.
But we're looking at these 4 dual threats that Alabama played last year. All of them went over.
And let's actually do this. So what we can do in our tool, we can actually kind of just look at the dual threat guys, right? So let's filter by rush attempts,
Yep.
and let's do 12 here. And we see now this is going to date us all the way back to 2022 with Robbie Ashford here. But when these are lines when the quarterback rushes for at least 12 rushing attempts, and we can look at it right here in this view.
Absolutely gorgeous filter. I love that. And as you can see, the over is smacking. I mean, we're at a 7-3 ratio here. Now, of course, everybody knows when you're gambling, anything can happen. I do like over 25 and a half rush yards, though.
Yeah. My
Because,
my only concern here with
yeah,
this rush yards would be I have no doubt that he physically gets it, right? Just that Alabama defense, right? I
yeah,
don't know exactly what we're gonna expect. What does this Florida State offensive line look like? If he gets sacked 3 or 4 times, the rush yards aren't gonna matter at the end of the day.
yeah.
It's gonna negate everything he did. So that's my only hang up here.
Okay, let me point out one thing about why I'm also confident
Okay.
in Castellanos' ability to get 25 and a half yards, because this is not something that I necessarily thought about earlier in the week. But as we're getting closer and closer to time, I'm starting to think about all of his surrounding pieces. And Gus Malzahn is something to be considered. He is a guy that loves to commit to the run game. I mean,
Yep.
if you go back and look at UCF over the last 2 or 3 years, I mean, they're in the top of rushing statistics every single season. I
Yeah.
mean, last year they had the dual backs, RJ Harvey and Penny,
Yep.
I believe is his last name. Those guys both over 1,000 yards apiece. Their quarterback from a couple of seasons ago. Oh, I'm blanking on his name. Um, Oh,
What
he played
what team?
baseball, UCF quarterback from a couple of seasons
Oh,
ago.
John Reese Plumley?
Yes, what a pull. Great pull. Yes. He was somebody that Gus Malzahn used consistently in
Absolutely.
the run game.
Yeah,
And
fantasy sweetheart.
Castellanos is not the same kind of build. Plumlee was a bigger guy, and Castellanos has more of that slim build.
Yeah.
But I 100% think that Castellanos is in some shape, way, or form going to be involved in the run game, specifically RPOs.
And look, we can take a look here. If we look at these Alabama against stats, now this is from a season ago.
Yep,
Not too sure how many players we've replaced, but the only green defensive stat is the quarterback rush yards. So it
there it
it
is.
literally goes hand in hand there. So and look, historically, Gus Malzahn has been Alabama's Achilles heel.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
sure has.
he has given them fits over the years, right? So I'm 100% down to take this line.
Yeah, I like it a lot. In terms of the spread and the over under, looking at the game at large, this is very similar to me to the Texas Ohio State game. This is not a pick 'em. I'm confident that Alabama will win,
Yeah.
but how many points will Alabama win by? That I'm not confident. What I am confident in, though, is this pick right here. I really, really like that one because regardless of whether or not Malzahn ends up being able to draw it up, what Alabama is plagued by is broken pass, or not pass coverage, but rush coverage in
Yeah.
terms of containing dual threat quarterbacks. Jackson Arnold, of course, was the creme de la creme of that. I mean, he tore Alabama up. And regardless of whether or not the Florida State offense gets going today, I do think this is one of the things that they're going to try to hit.
Yeah. Well, look, and also you mentioned at the start of this breakdown was the weather. If the
Yeah.
weather does play a factor here, they're going to run the ball more, right? And he's going to use his legs a lot more. So I really like this look. I think I think this is a buy low spot as well. I think we're going to look back in the season and say, wow, Castellanos had a 25.5 yard rush line in this game. And yeah,
Yeah. Oh, and you know what's actually crazy that I just looked and found out? Tommy Castellanos was actually at UCF back in 2022 with Gus Malzahn.
interesting.
Yeah. So
Very
this is a guy
interesting.
that has had some experience with the Gus bus. I mean, now granted, he only threw for 16 pass attempts. This was his true freshman season. But regardless, I mean, this is a guy who knows kind of what Gus Malzahn is looking for. That's why they pulled him through the portal. And the one thing I'm looking at right now is the thing that concerns me about this line is sacks.
Yeah.
Last year, as the starter for the majority of the season for Boston College, Castellanos only took 19 sacks.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
So
That's
it
not
just
bad at all.
shows able to get out of there, right?
Yeah, he's able to escape the pocket. He had 161 attempts, completed 99 of them. So, I mean, he's at 61% completion percentage,
Yeah.
18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. You know, that's pretty good to me. Now, last year he was not used on the ground nearly as much as he was in 2023. In 2023, that man had 1,000 rushing yards and 13 touchdowns. Last year, limited, got benched at Boston College,
Yeah.
194 yards on the ground, but still, this is a dual threat guy that can capitalize. But we can move on because I know that there's a lot of other
Yeah,
lines to talk about in this game.
let's flip it around. Let's look at the Alabama side. We have it's interesting today, possible weather spot coming in. Ty Simpson, really his first look at Alabama, waited for his turn, passed down many NIL deals to stay here at Alabama.
Yep.
What are we thinking?
So this to me, two things. Number one, Ty Simpson is a Kalen DeBoer quarterback. You know, we've seen him in very limited spots at Alabama, but from what we can see, he is a point guard distributor. He is not a playmaker like Jalen Milroe. He is somebody that can sit in the pocket, make good throws, get the ball to Alabama's playmakers. Now, speaking of that, this to me is the best Alabama team since 2020 when they won the
Wow.
national championship,
Okay.
talent wise. Now, we look at Ryan Williams, Jeremy Bernard, even Isaiah Horton from Miami. That receiving core, in my opinion, is extremely talented and experienced. Now, Ryan Williams, of course, a sophomore, but we see the load that he was carrying last year as a true freshman. I mean, 800 yards total,
Yeah.
multiple touchdowns. That Georgia game, of course, we see that at the top of this filter here. Massive game. But
Absolutely.
what is concerning is I was actually looking at his receiving prop, 69 and a half. And we see it here, 7 under, 3 over.
Yeah. What happened at the end of the season?
The end of the season, two things. One, Milroe, just not a traditional passer.
Yeah.
You know, and Ryan Williams is a guy that thrives 15, 20 yards down the field. And Milroe throws a beautiful deep ball, but in terms of his passing game, that's his one dimension. And so what I saw at the end of the year was Michigan has got Wink Martindale, one of the best defensive minds in college football.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Brent Venables, great defensive mind. LSU was kind of coming alive there at the end of the year. Alabama was able to kill him on the ground, but the passing attack was not that great. And then Missouri, now we see he's a little bit more involved there, 4 catches, 53 yards. But towards the end of the season, people started to realize Milroe was just throwing up prayer after prayer
Yeah.
to Ryan Williams. And we see that at the beginning of the season. This time out, I think the game is going to change. Ryan Williams with Ty Simpson. I don't think Ty Simpson is a nuker. He's not
Yeah.
somebody that's throwing a 50-yard bomb, 4 or 5 times a game. So I think they're going to transform Ryan Williams into more of a bubble screen,
Yeah, absolutely.
slant, maybe a quick out type guy. The question is though, is that his game? Is that something that he can really thrive in? Towards the end of the season, we see his longest reception plummets.
Yeah.
75, 58, 16, 26, 19. Had that one good catch at Oklahoma. You remember, I don't remember if you watched that game, Oklahoma versus Alabama. I think the score was 24-3, and Jalen Milroe just throws up
Yeah.
a literal prayer to
Yes.
Ryan Williams in the end zone. He catches it, but there was
Yeah.
a flag
Yes.
for him not being on the line of scrimmage or something like that.
Yeah.
And expert rules official said that actually that wasn't a flag, but
Really?
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So regardless, though, that was his game last year. What does he look like this upcoming season? I don't know. I've seen a lot of reports out of camp that, of course, he's doing really well
Of
as
course,
wide
yeah.
receiver one. But I think we're going to see Ty Simpson be a mass distributor of the football. I think all three receivers get involved.
Yeah.
They are missing Jam Miller. He will be out for this game. So maybe the receiving core gets a little bit more jump. I do like this, though. This is the one that I wanted to
This
talk
is
about.
interesting right here.
Jeremy Bernard as wide receiver 2. Tons of attention on Ryan Williams last year. Allowed Bernard to
Absolutely.
thrive. I mean, we see all of these lines. He was torching teams near the end of the season. He's an experienced guy, comes from Washington with Kalen DeBoer,
Yep.
and he pairs back up with his offensive coordinator from Washington, Ryan Grubb. So I think Bernard will be a major part of this offense. The over-under receptions is what I was looking at.
Yeah.
Over 3.5 receptions, I love it.
Yeah,
I think he
absolutely.
will absolutely get the targets in this game. Florida State's defense has a ton of transfers. That's what I'll be looking at to see how they all mesh together. Jeremy Bernard will take advantage of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, what I really like when I look at this here, I just take a look at the receiving targets from a season ago. Pretty consistent across the board, right?
Yes.
Pretty
Yes.
consistent across the board. He had that one stinker at LSU, but other than that, I mean, he's looking at averaging 6.5 targets per game. And I think
Yep.
if he gets 7 targets today, he's going over this 3.5 line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one game that we're talking about here, LSU, I don't even know if Alabama threw for 150 yards that game. So it wasn't even him. It was the fact that Jalen Milroe went for like 180 rush yards and 4 touchdowns, I believe. I mean, unbelievable game from Milroe there. But I love the volume that he gets here with this Alabama offense as wide receiver 2. Ryan Williams, once again, he might get more yards,
Yeah.
because he gets a 50-yard catch. But Jeremy Bernard will get the lion's share of those short yardage targets.
So
Yeah.
anything on the transfer Isaiah Horton here?
So Horton, once again, taller than the other two, but does not have a quote unquote like big body. He's
Yeah.
not a Jeremiah Smith or a Julio Jones. He's taller, but I would not define him as a contested catch specialist. Now, what you see here with his Miami tape is there were some games where, I mean, Cam Ward was looking his way every other play, but then there were some games where he just wasn't involved at all. I mean, we see that game versus Syracuse, 3 targets, 2 catches. Wake Forest, 4 targets, 3 catches. Cam Ward in that Miami offense, number 1 passing attack in college football last year. So some of these numbers are inflated. And as wide receiver 3, I don't necessarily like the receptions line or the over-under line in terms of yardage. Longest reception, though, that puts a little twinkle in my eye, in my opinion.
Yeah. You're seeing he's been down the field, right?
Yeah.
Down the field targets. If you take a look at all these now, didn't necessarily cash them, but he's right around that longest
He's
reception.
right on that line. I think this one right here, Vegas got like very similarly to that Ohio State-Texas game. This is all of these lines right here to me are pick'ems.
Yep.
3.5, 40.5, 21.5. Over under, I could see it either way.
Yep.
So in my opinion, I don't necessarily like anything here, but do you like anything here?
So yeah, for me, Isaiah Horton is going to be a wait and see kind of thing. I think
Yeah.
I think the books have this line priced perfectly today. I
Yeah,
think I think
I
he's going to
completely agree.
hover right around 3, right around 4 receptions. He's going to hover right around 35 to 50 yards. Longest reception is going to be right. I mean, it's going to be right there.
Right on the
Uh,
money. Yeah.
and I think what we want to do is try to find that value, right? Like we found this value in Jeremy Bernard today. I think
Yeah.
this 3.5 is a misprice, personally.
I
Um,
I agree. And if you're looking at the odds down there, minus 118 is not bad value
yeah,
for 3.5.
right, right. And again, this is just going to be this whole game plan that Florida State has come in with this week is for this guy,
Yeah.
right? They're going to try to shut this guy down, and it's just going to open up these passing lanes. And it very well could be Isaiah Horton over Jeremy Bernard today. But I think historically, and as you said earlier, and someone actually mentioned in the chat, he has some time with the offensive coordinator from Washington. You know what I mean? This
Yep.
this is a chemistry thing as well. I think they're going to set him up in the pass game today.
I definitely think so as well. I'm really excited to see where exactly this Alabama offense goes from transitioning from a very physical team in terms of running the football with Milrow, Jam Miller, even Justice Hayes last year, who transferred to Michigan. Where do they sit now with a Ty Simpson, traditional passer, and Jam Miller being out for this upcoming game?
Yeah, I think the backfield for Alabama is a huge question mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
A hundred percent.
you had these guys transfer out, and honestly, I don't know much about these two backs. And that's
Yeah.
that's that's what I'm interested to see today. I see the book lines on them for a touchdown, just kind of almost at even money. They're not anything super valuable. I do want to try to find a touchdown play, and it doesn't have to be from this game at all. But at some point, if we find a touchdown game, a touchdown play, if there was one back from the Texas Ohio State game, we can also go back as well. But I do want to try to find some value here in a touchdown line.
So I was looking at some lines earlier, and we'll get to this in just a little bit, but I love some touchdown props in the LSU Clemson game.
Okay, and
So
it's funny you mentioned that because we actually had a touchdown prop in that game yesterday. So interesting. I want to see if we're on the same one. We'll see once we get there.
okay,
But
all right.
anything else you want to mention from this game, or you want to jump into that one now?
I think jumping into that one now would be great. I mean, I think we got two really good,
Yeah,
valuable props
yeah,
from that game. Tommy Castellanos rushing yards and Jeremy Bernard over receptions.
yeah. And
Love
we'll
those
just
two
we'll
picks.
just touch on the plays that we picked for you guys so far. We got Jeremy Bernard over 3.5 receptions, minus 118 there. That is Splash Picks, Splash Sports. You can also get that line on Underdog as well. It'll be the same line. Tommy Castellanos over 25.5 rushing yards, minus 114 at FanDuel. Ryan Wingo under 55.5 receiving yards. Go back in the video there for the analysis on that one. Really sharp take. CJ Donaldson over 6.5 receiving yards today, minus 115 on ProfitX. Those are our four now. Now we're going to jump into the Tigers taking on the Tigers, right? LSU
Yep.
at Clemson.
Yeah, this is probably in terms of all of the slate that we've got for the rest of this weekend. This is my favorite game of the weekend.
Yeah.
I have lived in Baton Rouge for quite some time. I have fallen in love with the LSU Tigers, but both of these teams kind of have my heart. I love what both rosters are projected to do. This to me is a playoff matchup. I mean, very
Yeah,
similar to
absolutely.
Texas Ohio State. We could absolutely see this game yet again come January or late December.
Yeah, and we're seeing. I mean, you talked about possible fireworks, 56.5 total. One of the higher totals that we've looked at today, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this game, in my opinion, the weather looks pretty good
Yeah,
for the start. It's not going to be that hot, which is great because there's not going to be a lot of cramps, and that means that teams are going to be flying around the field. I love everything that this game has to offer. Two extremely experienced quarterbacks. Clemson's offensive line is the first thing that I want to talk about.
yeah.
135 combined starts for those
Wow.
guys. They've played through thick and thin. They've seen the worst of their play and the best of it. So I am really looking forward to the matchup between this completely transformed LSU defense.
Uh-oh. I think we lost him
That to
there.
me is the
Okay.
toss up of this game. But let's go ahead and hop right into our man, Cade Klubnik. We
Yeah.
see his passing line at 270 and a half. And let's look at that LSU defense. They didn't do that bad against the pass last year. Now, scoring wise, LSU basically let everybody at the beginning of the year put up 25, 30
Yeah.
points a game.
Yeah.
But it wasn't because of the passing game. It was the rush.
Yep.
The rush was what really crushed LSU, specifically from dual threat quarterbacks and running back by committee
Yeah.
teams. LSU is going to be way different this year. Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins, Ashton Stamps. They got a transfer from Houston that I thought was really good at safety. I love their pass rush. I like their middle linebacker. Whit Weeks is like, did you ever watch Friday Night Lights?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is like, oh, I can't remember his name. Oh, Riggins from
Yeah.
Friday
Okay.
Night Lights, like that
Okay.
typical,
Gotcha.
like meathead football player.
Got that dog in him.
Yeah, he's got the freaking dog in him for sure.
Yeah.
But then that LSU secondary is basically all brand new.
Yeah.
Transfers coming all from all throughout the country, but the best transfers. I believe LSU had the best portal class out of anybody.
Yeah.
And so this to me is a matchup between a team that has a ton of continuity and consistency versus a team who tried to pull from the best of the best from around the country and mash those together and see what happens. Cade Klubnik at 270 and a half. I like that. But the thing that I want to touch on is his touchdown props.
Okay.
That's where I wanted to get the over under on. The line to me looks great at over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I really like that.
Yeah.
LSU, of course, has tons of talent, but Cade Klubnik has a lot of chemistry built in with tons of guys. And so the reason I wanted to touch on this over under 1.5 touchdowns is because I wanted to parlay it with something.
Okay.
Because minus 165, not great.
Yeah.
That's not tremendous value. It's not the worst in the world, but I also wanted to pair it with under interceptions. Now, that will probably get us back to that even line of about plus 100, I believe.
Yeah, and Doink is going to add a parlay feature. Currently, we don't offer that right now, but
Okay.
it is something that is being in the works so that you can parlay those together, and you can it'll actually show you the book odds that you get on it. That is
Oh, that's
something
awesome. Yeah,
that's
that's
in
crazy.
development right now. But yeah, I really like that because you don't want to lay all that juice at minus 165, right? You
Right.
want to find that little parlay piece that can get you back closer to even money, and I think that under interceptions is great there.
Yeah, we see it versus SMU, massive game, 4
Yeah,
touchdowns, 0 interceptions. FSU on the road, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Where he did struggle was versus Texas and South Carolina with those interceptions. South Carolina specifically, 0 touchdowns.
yeah, interesting.
But that South Carolina defense last year had maybe one of the best pass rushers in all of football.
Yeah,
They lost a few to the end. Like those guys would be playing on Sundays. Kyle Kennard and Tonka Hemingway. Those guys they're on active 53-man rosters right now, as a matter of fact. So we'll be seeing them literally next Sunday. This LSU defense, pass rush wise, I like Harold Perkins, but let's take a look at that LSU defense. Can we see a sack statistic by any chance? That might
let's
be that might be rare, or that might not be
let's see
a
see if we
prop.
have it. So we have sacks here. Yeah, we do have it. So we can take a
Dang.
look. Where did it put it
Yeah,
at?
pass
Pass
sack right there
sacks.
by interceptions.
Yeah, here you go, right here.
There we go. Amazing. Yeah. Take a look at LSU against the pass against very talented offenses. Alabama, 0.
Yep.
Florida with DJ Lagway, 0. Baylor right there with Sawyer Robertson, who we talked about earlier in this, won. Now, they did do really well against UCLA and Ole Miss, but in both of those games, I think like we could see the pass completions right there,
Yeah.
second most for Ole Miss, 24. I mean, they were throwing the rock around in that
Yeah.
game. Um, I don't necessarily think that Cade Klubnik is a guy that gets sacked a ton.
Yeah.
Take a look at these statistics. Passing sacks 1-1-0-2. He had quite a few versus Virginia Tech and Pitt, but then the rest of these games, he's not getting sacked more than 4 times.
Yeah. Interesting.
So LSU is not a team that gets a ton of sacks versus good teams. And then Cade Klubnik is not a guy that gets sacked. And so that to me is the difference maker in the interceptions as well.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be
Absolutely.
throwing that many picks. That's a hot take, I think, because I mean that line's over under at half. So I mean, it's possible, but we see it here 6 under 4 over in his senior year, seeing so much football. I expect him to make the right plays.
Yeah, coming into a big game like this, you expect him to just take priority in protecting the football, right?
Yes.
I mean, look at the spread. We got a 4-point spread here. This could come down to one possession late in the game, and I think a veteran guy like Klubnik, he's going to come in with that mindset to protect the football. I think what I want to touch on next is I kind of want to take a look at these backfields.
Yeah,
Um,
let's take a look.
what do we think? What do we think the different? Who's going to be the difference maker in the backfield today?
Okay. Caden Durham is a guy for LSU who came alive for this team. They have had question marks at running back now for 3 or 4 seasons.
Absolutely.
And their offensive line, by the way, stacked with talent last year. The 2 best offensive tackles in football last year in the SEC, Will Campbell, Emory Jones. But for some reason, you could see it here on some of these statistics. They just couldn't run the ball for
Yeah.
some reason in some of these games.
Yeah.
Texas A&M, every single time they ran the football, and it was basically like running to a brick wall. But this upcoming season, I think some of the pressure is going to be taken off of Garrett Nussmeier and put into the hands of this kid right here. Freshman last year, going into a sophomore season, more experience, and he showed that when you give him the ball, eventually he succeeds. Take a look at those carries. When he gets 12 plus carries, he starts to pound the rock. 21 carries, 101 yards versus Arkansas. 21 carries, 95 yards against Florida. This Clemson defensive line, if we could flip it, and filter this out, more than 12, which is almost every single one of these games right here. Their defensive line I think has 2 first-round picks and another day 2 pick in TJ Woods and I'm sorry, TJ Parker, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. Yes, TJ Parker, Peter Woods, and then Sammy Brown, I think is a day 2 pick. That front 7 for Clemson, top 5 at minimum, maybe best in the country. That is the matchup to look at, in my opinion. I think LSU is going to lean more on the run game versus Clemson. We see them doing it versus physical teams, and Clemson did not respond well at all at the end of the year when their running back ones, their opposing running back ones, started toting the rock.
Yeah,
specifically, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you just see here. I mean, if we look at just power backs, right, like Wisner here, 15 rush attempts for 110. It seems like they're getting gashed at some point or another in the game. Like you can just like Durham might break one and cover half of his rushing yards in one attempt. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
100%.
he has these games where he's just busted off a big run as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. In my opinion, the most favorable prop here from Durham is the over 62.5. And look at the juice as well. It's got the best odds of the 3, -118, -118, and -109.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Durham over 62.5. I think either A, he's going to bust one like he did in several of these games, or B, he's going to be getting a lot of touches. Now, this LSU offensive line is relatively not necessarily green in terms of experience, but green in terms of playing with each other. So I'm curious to see what happens there. But overall, I'm very confident that LSU sees what's on the tape here. We in the last six or no, the last 7 games, running backs 5-2 against the over/under spread
Yep.
of 62.5, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, and it's a pretty low line. I'm interested to see. Okay, so we don't even have uh so we have 48.5 for Harlem Berry. That's interesting.
So Durham last year ended up towards the end of the season being the guy. So
Right.
I think the reason we see Harlem Berry here, as well as I believe Josh Williams was also with LSU. He's in. I think he made an active roster as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah.
But John Emery as well, who is actually from Trussville, Alabama.
Oh,
Just a tiny plug. He ended up transferring to UTSA. He was on the national championship team with Joe Burrow.
wow.
That's how long he's been in college.
Man, COVID
Anyways,
COVID changed things, man.
yeah, COVID really did change things, and he dealt with several injuries. So I'm happy to see him go somewhere else and be the running back number one. But I think the reason that Harlem Berry here has basically, ghost lines is because I don't think anybody knows whether or not he's going to get more than 1 or 2 touches.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, so we think that Caden Durham's gonna be like the bell cow running back in this
yeah,
team.
100%.
Gotcha.
Um, do you guys have scrimmage yards? Is
Let's
that an over under prop?
let's see. So the rush plus receiving.
Yeah. 88.5. That one I shy away from just because you could see it here. It's pretty much split. He was not very involved in the receiving game last year. I mean, the max receptions that he got was 4.
Yeah.
Now, there are some games where he busted out a big one, like a 71-yard reception, a 40-yard reception. But the majority of these, like, look at some of these long receptions: 6, 7, 4, 4, and 3.
Yeah, and if you filter it by some of the more stout defenses as well, like looking at Alabama, just didn't do anything.
Right.
Florida, and these are the good defense. Like you don't want to take the South Alabama one, right?
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
and that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think the rush yards is more of the safer look here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love over 62.5. Now, talking about this LSU receiving core, or maybe even the Clemson receiving core, either or, whichever one you want to do first.
Let's do LSU.
Wow, man. Both this is probably 1 and 2, and you could swap it either way. Best receiving cores in the country.
Yeah.
Chris Hilton Jr., Aaron Anderson, Barian Brown for LSU, and then Antonio Williams, Bryant Westco Jr. Clemson actually had a basketball player as one of their tight ends.
Really?
Yeah, but he's
This
actually
guy?
I think no, he's suspended for this game.
Oh, gotcha.
I think he got either a really like a reckless driving ticket or a DUI or something along those
Oh, wow.
lines. So he won't be playing in this game. I don't necessarily think that touched any of the lines. He played at Clemson basketball for 5 years. And
Wow.
so now he's using his last year of eligibility to play football for some reason. I don't know why. But anyways, I digress. Let's talk about LSU first. Touchdown props. The one guy that I love here to catch a touchdown today, Aaron Anderson, plus 150. That guy has found the end zone in some of the biggest games for LSU. He's one of the only guys that will be in the starting part of this receiving core that, in my opinion, Garrett Nussmeier has the most chemistry with. And we
Yeah.
see here the Florida game, the Texas A&M game, the Ole Miss game, catches a touchdown. In some of these other games, though, he gets the lion's share of the targets. And so, sure, he didn't catch touchdowns versus Oklahoma, Baylor, and Vanderbilt, but in 2 of those 3 games, 8 targets and 12 targets. That's what I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to lean on today. Barian Brown is a deep threat receiver. Chris Hilton Jr., kind of also the same. Xavier Thomas, more of a playmaker, like you get him the ball in a bubble screen. Aaron Anderson is the one guy that you can trust 5, 10, 15
Yeah.
yards down the field going left or right.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
and speaking of basketball players, one of the most intriguing to me that will actually get some good run this year, if you scroll down just a little bit, Trey Green, LSU power forward, freak athlete, 6'7", huge body. And as you see there later in the year, he finally started to get some run in the bowl game
Interesting.
because Mason Taylor, remember, was on that team last year, ends up
Yeah.
getting drafted to the Jets.
Yeah.
But he did not play in that Baylor game. And Trey Green did. There it is. 6 targets, 53 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm not going to touch any of his props today
Yeah.
just because, he's tight end number 1, but I mean, is he going to be that involved in the receiving game?
Hey,
TBD.
we've seen though, if we look at this Clemson defense against pretty stout offenses, like we look at the Texas game, we look at
Yep.
this SMU game, Pitt, Virginia Tech, and Florida State. Tight ends had a field day.
Yeah, and let me pull out my little notebook here.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have, if you're looking at that tight end matchup versus Texas, that's Gunnar Helm, I believe. He's playing on Sundays. And then that SMU tight end is
Matthew Heibner.
yes, that's right. And I have him as one of the best tight ends from last season.
Yeah.
Trey Green could be that, but with obviously the lion's share of his work being one catch, maybe.
Yeah.
In 3 or 4 games, I could give you a more accurate prediction on whether or not I think some of these props are going over or under. But based off of that last game versus Baylor, this could be a guy that's really involved in this offense.
And I think you're kind of seeing that from the book odds as well. They're trying to protect themselves today because they don't know. Just it's a
Yes,
wait and see game. If this line was at 1.5 today, I think I would jump on it. If
I
he had
would.
one
I would as well.
1.5 receptions, I think he ends with 2 to 3 today. If this
Yeah.
receiving yards prop was like in the teens somewhere, I think the books are just protecting themselves today. They want to wait and see as well on this guy.
Yeah, I think that if you go back and look at tons and tons of these games, a lot of these lines are pretty much pick'ems. Just
Yeah,
because, like, there's not, in my opinion, there's not a ton of value to be found across the college football slate early. Just because, just as much as Vegas doesn't know, we also don't know. I mean,
exactly.
we can get the edge on a few plays as we have, I think, in our 5 picks that we've made today. But in terms of consistently trying to like hammer the books today, it's just more of a toss up, in my opinion. So we just got to carefully pick our lines.
Yeah.
And here's a guy that I love to pick his line: Antonio Williams, wide receiver number 1. Looking at some of these massive games, he's getting the targets.
17 against Pitt. Wow.
17 against Pitt. He is Cade Klubnik's go-to guy.
Absolutely.
And then if you take a look at LSU's defense against those go-to guys, Caden Lee, over. Ole Miss, Elijah Badger was DJ Lagway's go-to. Josh Cameron led
Yeah.
Baylor in receptions and receiving yards.
Yeah.
And then I'm that Oklahoma game is kind of a wash because I think 5 of their starting wide receivers were out
Yeah.
for last season. But anyways, I think LSU, depending on the matchup, does not thrive against these big-bodied wide receivers
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Antonio Williams. Looking at this value right now, over under 5.5, over under 59.5. I love the over 59.5 prop.
Yeah.
He is 6-4 on that prop. And then looking at the games that he was under, 3 of them were relatively close, 44, 48, and 50. And the ones that he's going over, the majority of them he's hammering.
Yeah.
72, 99, 149, 69, 84. I like this prop a lot because I think when you have a big matchup, Texas, South Carolina, Pitt, FSU on the road, he got the targets.
Yeah.
So that's who I like.
And we could also see a scenario where we've got a tight spread here. It's a 4-point spread. We could see a 1-score game. LSU's up a field goal with 3 minutes to go. A negative game script would do wonders for a guy like Antonio Williams as well. If they're down a score, they're going to have to throw the ball, and he's going to be the guy they're going to look to go to.
Yep. I 100% agree. Now the rest of that receiving core for Clemson is also really talented. I mentioned Bryant Wesco Jr. earlier. He's a guy that gets a lot of deep balls thrown to him. We could see those long receptions at 70, 45, 55, 36, 43. His longest reception is 25 and a half. I think that's a great line. LSU's defense, I've said it multiple times now, but their secondary is brand new, very talented in my opinion. Towards the end of the year, you saw that top getting taken off.
Yeah,
However,
absolutely.
The thing that I cannot trust about that is that the numbers that we're seeing there at the end are versus guys that aren't playing, this Saturday. And so I do like that Westco 25 and a half going over, but it's not one that I would be willing to quote unquote like hang my hat on.
Yeah, gotcha.
So and then TJ Moore is also another really talented wide receiver. I think we'll be seeing all three of these guys play on Sundays. But once again, the books have it kind of dead to rights here.
Yep.
I mean, the receiving prop, receiving yards prop, and then longest reception are on the money. Like 3.5,
absolutely.
52.5, 23.5, right there. So this is Clemson's tight end. I don't know actually a lot about him. Obviously didn't get a lot of run last year in terms of getting some targets. Questionable at best. So in my opinion, I like those two.
Yeah.
Now speaking of the larger spread and the over under, my heart says LSU +4.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Brian Kelly 0-3 in his opening games. LSU was on a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah.
In their opening games. Clemson also has not played well in their openers. I believe they're 2-3 in their last 5 openers. That oh man, that game versus Georgia last year that they had 34-3 got stomped. They had a really ugly loss to Duke a couple of years ago. I don't know. What do you think, Reeves? Who do you like in this game?
This is one that I'm in the same boat as you. I think that there's a likely scenario where both these teams come out and struggle early on in the game, and we get a 28-24 dogfight going into the fourth quarter.
Yep.
So in terms of spread, over unders, money lines, I'm probably going to stay away from that today, and just target props in the game. I think that this one is too difficult to call because it could go either way.
Yeah, I completely agree. I did a preview on this earlier this week. My final score prediction was LSU 31, Clemson 34.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Kind of, I think this game could go over, especially as we get closer to the fourth quarter. But I mean, if LSU scores one less touchdown, that game's going under. So it's a game that teeters the line here, and 31-34, LSU would be covering the spread. Once again, I could see it going either way. This is a game that Vegas has got the lines, in my opinion, pretty close.
So is there any other game that you want to touch on, or any other props that you want to look at? We don't necessarily have to full deep dive a game. If there are just some props from a game you want to look at, we can dive into that. Let me know what you want to do.
Okay, so it could be raining versus this in this Alabama Florida State game. It also could be raining tomorrow versus or in the Notre Dame Miami game. Last time I looked at the line, it was 49.5. It's bumped up to 50.5. Both new quarterbacks. Notre Dame's got a stout defense. I don't think their offense is going to be off the charts. Miami has been known to let up a ton of points. I think that this is maybe their get back year. I love the under 50.5 as a prop. Carson Beck, I believe his passing yards prop 239. In my opinion, I love the under. Look at that. Yes, look at that Notre Dame defense right there.
Stout.
They're very stout. This is probably their best defense that they've had. They lost a couple of guys to the draft last year. Benjamin Morrison is one of them. Look at these games. He missed the Indiana, Georgia, Penn State, Ohio State game. And that was their cornerback one. And they still relatively shut down these quarterbacks.
That
And
is
then they also lost Xavier Watts, who, in my opinion, was more of a box specialist, like run stopper, than he was somebody that dropped back in the secondary. So Notre Dame secondary is very stout. This Miami offense loses Damian Martinez, 1,000-yard rusher. Xavier Restrepo, 1,000-yard receiver. They also lost Isaiah Horton, who we talked about earlier.
yeah.
Elijah Ario, I believe is his last name, tight
Yes.
end who's now with Seattle, I
Yep.
think. I think Miami lost their top 5 pass catchers.
That's insane.
Now they do bring in
Let's see.
CJ Daniels, I believe, from LSU, who actually was originally at Liberty
Okay.
and paired with Caden Salter there a couple of seasons ago. They both had electric years. CJ Daniels had over 1,000 yards, but last year at LSU, Daniels just could not find the field. I think he ended up with like 160 something receiving yards. So I love Carson Beck under 239 passing. I think this game could be rainy, so not a ton of passing, and I think this Notre Dame defense is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it. Are all of these receivers? These are just all transfers, right?
I think so. Yes, I can confirm that
And
in 2 seconds.
and what I like to look at here is you can kind of see by their jerseys, right?
Yeah,
These
yeah,
jerseys are different, so you can just infer that they're transfers in. One guy I actually am interested in here today for Notre Dame is Malachi Fields.
yeah. Transfer from Virginia.
Yeah,
Had a good run last year.
he was
As
the guy.
he was the guy.
Yeah,
CJ Carr is Notre Dame's quarterback to
yeah,
start this season. Supposedly, allegedly, this is the according to the preseason reports and fall camp stuff. He's the best passer of the Marcus Freeman era, which is
yeah,
saying a lot considering that they had a guy like Sam Hartman a couple years ago. Now Riley Leonard has been the best quarterback for Notre Dame, but he was not known as like a passer. He was a great
right.
dual threat. CJ Carr, known as a passer, and apparently he is extremely talented. The over 39.5 line right there, I love it.
Yeah, this is a crazy suppressed line today. This is
Yeah.
super interesting. I just want to take a look at everybody else's. So 30 and a half there for Jordan. How you say that? Faison?
Faison, I think. And then
Faison.
Great House down here. Look at the numbers at the end of the season.
Yeah,
He became Riley Leonard's go-to,
yeah,
but Riley Leonard is not CJ Carr.
yeah,
So I would love to lean on Malachi Fields here.
yeah. I want to hammer this
I,
one.
I mean, this guy
Yeah,
was. You want to talk about? I don't even know how to describe it. Number one wide receiver on Virginia by a long shot.
yeah,
I mean, we see that game right there where he had 17 targets.
yeah. Just the guy, man.
Yeah, he was the guy last year. And then later in the season, you could see his targets kind of go down. Number one, I think that's because Virginia's offense started playing really talented teams. But look who he shined against. I've lauded this Notre Dame defense. 4 catches, 81 yards versus
Yeah,
Notre Dame's defense.
yeah. That is very impressive.
Yeah.
Clemson. I mean, Clemson, another stout one.
Yeah.
Just stout defenses littered throughout here. Louisville, not the greatest defense in the
Right.
world.
Yeah.
But
And speaking of Louisville's defense, one of their corners that was guarding Malachi Fields last year when he had 130 yards, he will be a starter on Miami's defense. Let me look up his name real quick. I believe it is Xavier Lucas.
yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I think it's Xavier Lucas will be there from Louisville,
Okay.
and I think Malachi Fields will give them fits.
I mean, just look at this. Just look at this Miami pass defense a season ago. I mean, gave up 222 yards a game in the air.
Yeah. Yeah, this Miami defense was not the greatest at all. And by not the greatest, I mean they were pretty bad. They were pretty damn bad. One guy I really do like on this team that missed a lot of last season for Miami's defense was Ruben Bain, who I
Yeah.
think is one of the best edge rushers. He's completely healthy this year. This is his junior season. His true freshman year was off the charts. I think he's going to have a good game versus Notre Dame. They're actually missing one of their starting offensive linemen from an ATV accident
Oh,
this
wow.
offseason. But their two tackles, Knapp and Wagner for Notre Dame, those are NFL guys. Those are guys you're going to see on Sunday. So love to see that matchup versus Ruben Bain and either Emil Wagner or Knapp, the left tackle. I just think Notre Dame gets the job done here. I also like Notre Dame -3.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was
I,
gonna
I,
mention that. I really love the Notre Dame -3 today. Um, Actually taking a look at some of these Notre Dame touchdown odds, Malachi Fields +210 for a touchdown today. I like some value there. Maybe throw a half unit on something like that.
yeah, I do like a half a unit there. Full unit play, maybe not, just because once again with the unknowns of college football, this is a guy that could be quote unquote questionable in terms of what his role is going to be with
Yeah.
this Notre Dame team. But I do like the value there at +210. I mean, we see Jeremiah Love's at -200,
Oh,
and Jadarian Price, who is RB2, is at +150. So they're thinking that those two guys are going to get the red zone touches. I think that
absolutely.
they throw one out to Malachi Fields. I like
Yeah.
that.
I would love to see them, just get this guy, get a couple catches under his belt, get him a couple red zone targets, get this guy comfortable. I love taking that look. I actually looked at something that kind of caught my eye here. I was taking a look at Carson Beck. I was looking at this interceptions line, and we talked about that Notre Dame stout defense.
Yeah.
I mean, 7 out of their last 10 last season,
Is
they
that an
had
over under at half?
what? Yeah, yeah, and that's a Prize Picks line today.
Oh, I would hammer
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Let's throw that one in. It caught my eye earlier. I was like, I'm gonna make sure to go back to that. Carson Beck, look at these games against really stout defenses, man. He
Yeah.
really struggled.
Yeah. That is absolutely insane. And this was I think Carson Beck is a little overhated in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
I mean, look at some of these passing games. I mean, he was putting up yards.
absolutely.
The two problems was that one, Georgia in several of these games put him in a hole, especially that game versus Alabama where he goes down, I believe, 28-3 or something like that, something relatively close to that.
Yeah.
The second thing was that Georgia wide receiver core was awful
Oh
last
my
season,
gosh. Yeah.
led the country in drops, nobody of NFL caliber.
Nope.
The thing is, though, that I think is interesting is that he transfers to Miami, where the same could be said about this Miami wide receiving core.
Yeah.
Their best wide receiver, I believe, is CJ Daniels. Some of these other guys are transfers in, like Tony Johnson, who I can't think of where he comes from off the top of my head. I think he came from Florida Atlantic, maybe Cincinnati, something along those lines. But I digress. I think that Beck here is going to be put on the spot.
Yeah.
Can he respond? And in my opinion, the answer will probably be no, just not necessarily because of him, but because of what, one, the Notre Dame defense does, and two, what the Miami receiving core lacks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't see like just a quote unquote guy in this
Yeah,
Miami receiving core. Like you haven't heard of these names. These aren't household names that you've heard of.
right.
So it's going to be interesting to see like can he get the ball around? Can these guys create separation for Carson Beck to get going today?
Yeah, I think that Miami, Cristobal is a former offensive line coach. He is somebody that loves to pound the rock. We saw him do it last year with Mark Fletcher Jr., who was the backup, and Damian Martinez, who was the starter. Combined between just the two of those guys, they had over 1,700 yards. I think that Mark Fletcher Jr. is a guy that I really like. Rushing prop wise, this game, I would stay away from it just
Yeah,
because this Notre Dame defense really shows out. Let's take a look at some of those lines. Yeah, I mean we see what they're capable of doing. Didn't allow a single 100-yard rusher last year.
that's very impressive.
Yeah. Mark Fletcher Jr., though, in some of these games started when he got the carries. So 11, 13, 15, 12, 13, 12, really took advantage of that and ran the football well. But at 58 and a half yards for this game versus Notre Dame, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games where Notre Dame held their running back one
Yeah,
to
yeah.
under. And some of these teams are teams that pound the rock. Georgia Tech,
Yeah.
Navy exclusively run the
Yeah.
football, and they couldn't get over 58.5 rushing
Penn
yards.
State as well. I
Yeah,
mean, it went
Army
over in
Army
that
as
one.
well. Like obviously Army, Georgia Tech, and Navy are not the premier talent,
Yeah.
but we're talking about teams that like they were in the top 10 of rushing yards per game last year. The three of those teams, and Notre Dame was able to dominate in terms of controlling the line of scrimmage. I think the same thing can be said here in this game, and that's why I want to stay away from it. So those are the games I really wanted to talk about. I mean, I could throw out a few more props that I really like. Uh, I like South Carolina -7.5.
Yeah. South Carolina -7.5.
Virginia Tech loses quite a few guys to the transfer portal and the NFL. Their defense, I thought Virginia Tech was going to have a really good team last year. I had them going like 9-3 or 10-2, and they were just really disappointing overall. I think South Carolina is a team with a lot of momentum. Lenore Sellers is a quarterback that I really like. I think a lot of people are high on him in the country. Kyron Drones is one of those guys that nobody really talks about dual threat wise,
Yeah.
but he can get after it. I mean, we
Look
see
at the stats here.
we see the rushing attempts. I like that prop at over 23.5 rushing yards.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that. I think the reason that prop is really, really low is because South Carolina was able to sack the quarterback last year. Look at that. Look at those sacks right there. 8.
Wow.
Yeah. That was versus Jackson Arnold. God bless his soul.
So are we ready to say Jackson Arnold wasn't the problem at Oklahoma?
Oh, 1,000%. I can attest that Jackson Arnold was not the problem at
I mean,
Oklahoma.
how
That
can you set a guy up for success? 8 sacks. You just cannot protect this guy.
and look at he was still able to put 225 in the air with a touchdown, you know?
Yeah. Still was
Uh
positive and well, at 17, still was negative in the rush yards, but 17 rush attempts, 8 sacks on those.
Yeah, and so I look at some of these other guys. Let's take a look at quarterback by quarterback versus this South Carolina defense real quick. Jackson Dart, kind of a dual threat in terms of rushing attempts. If
Oh,
we
okay.
if we
Yeah, yeah,
scroll over,
yeah.
he went over his yards. Jalen Milrow over 23.5 yards. Marcel Reed, another dual threat guy, over. Diego
Wow.
Pavia, over. Brady Cook, Drew Pine, that combo. Those guys are not dual threats, but
Yeah,
Cade
pocket
Klubnik can
passer.
get on the ground.
Yeah. I love this actually.
Yeah, Kyron Drones is a guy that can run the football. We see it in some of these games. I mean, my God, did he get after it? I think we'll see him go over that 23.5. That's a really low line, in
That's
my
a
opinion.
really low line. I think the books are expecting him to get sacked quite a few times today.
I agree. So that was going to be my main note. So everybody figured out Dylan Stewart last year, that freshman phenom pass rusher from South
Yeah,
Carolina.
absolutely.
A lot of his success came from 4 other guys on that defensive line and linebacker unit that thrived for South Carolina. The 2 guys that I can think of off the top of my head, Tonka Hemingway, Kyle Kennard, both of those guys NFL, and the other 2 also NFL. The 4 of them, I did a preview about this and talked about it. They combined for 17 sacks last year. Dylan Edwards had 6.
Yeah.
So he's going to be the guy that the South Carolina is going to lean on to get to the passer. I predicted that he is going to have a Will Anderson type year. So back in 2021, Will Anderson, as like a sophomore, lit up college football. He had damn near 20 sacks on the season.
Yeah.
But it was because Alabama had several other pass rushers that were extremely talented that ended up going to the draft. The next year, everybody thought Will Anderson was going to be like the defensive Heisman candidate. And he ended up only having 10 sacks on the year because every single offense game planned exclusively to stop him. I think the same thing can be said about this South Carolina defense. Dylan Stewart will be the guy that everybody tries to stop.
Yeah.
And if he's the only one, Kyle Jones will have a field day running the football.
Yeah, and you would imagine that they're coming in game planning for that, right? Ways to shut him down, ways to run away from him, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and you could vice versa could be said. The South Carolina defense is
Yeah,
also
exactly.
game planning for
Exactly.
Kyron Drones. But based off of the experience that we see here, the only games where he's going under or the majority of the games that he's going under are the games where he's getting sacked.
Yeah.
Specifically, looking up there at Vanderbilt and Marshall, 7 sacks, and he even in that game versus Vanderbilt was damn near close to
Yeah,
23 and a
very
half.
close, very close.
This is also a neutral site game in Atlanta. So there's no weather factors here. It's in a dome. I like his ability to get outside the pocket and get 23 and a half.
Yeah, we've been live for an hour and a half here. I think we've got a really strong pool of plays here. Let's kind of recap our plays just to kind of land the plane here.
Yep.
Uh, we found some value today, guys. We really, really found some value. Week one's always tough to try to find the value in the books. The lines are pretty sharp. We showed you guys some multiple examples where the lines were really, really sharp. But here's what we landed on today. Kyron Drones over 23 and a half rushing yards, minus 114. Carson Beck over interceptions thrown. Just needs to throw one there. That's on Prize Picks. Malachi Fields. This is a half unit play, guys. Keep that in mind. Over touchdowns plus 210 over there at Hard Rock. Malachi Fields as well. Over 39 and a half rushing yards, minus 114 today. Possible misprice on there. We want to see what that volume looks like. We have Antonio Williams over 59 and a half rushing yards. Really one of the only plus money plays that we took today. But we really like that value there. Caden Durham, running back for LSU, over 62 and a half rushing yards, minus 109. Jeremy Bernard, over 3.5 receptions. Solid volume guy. Lots of attention is going to be on Ryan Williams today. And Tommy Castellanos, over 25 and a half rushing yards. Alabama suspect to the dual threat quarterback. Minus 114 on FanDuel there. And rounding out the plays here, Ryan Wingo, under 55 and a half receiving yards today. CJ Donaldson, over 6.5 receiving yards. And that's going to do it today. Anything that you wanted to add here at the end?
No, man. I love this opportunity to hop on here and talk some ball. Mix in a little gambling here before we
Yeah.
start the Saturday. I love this. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Much
and
appreciated.
and where can the viewers find you at?
So everybody can find me. I am Plaisant. You could find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Plaisant's podcast. If you search up Plizont, you'll find me on Google, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I talk college football on my Instagram, NBA on my TikTok, and then YouTube Shorts. I talk NFL, and then long form content. I do a mixture of the three on YouTube. So be sure to check me out because I love talking ball, man. And as I'm looking here at my other monitor, we have just kicked off in the Texas-Ohio State game. Texas has got the ball first, so super excited to hop into that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's watch some live football, guys. Good luck on your bets. Everybody have a great day.